Hello, I'm Kendall, and today I'll be building the Airfix 1/72nd scale jet Provost. Airfix provided me with this kit for free. However, they have not paid me or told me what to do or say. Before starting, I washed all the parts in warm, soapy water with a splash of vinegar. I painted the small interior parts while they were still in the sprue with the colors indicated on screen. The seats had seat belts molded onto them, which was a nice touch. It was a bit difficult to fit the central control panel in between the two seats, and it required some sanding to make it fit. The kit includes 2 pilot figures, which I decided not to use. I applied a dark brown acrylic wash to the seats to bring out the detail. The cockpit was then dry brushed with a medium gray color to create some highlights. I scraped the paint off the contact areas with a knife so that the glue could bond to the plastic. The detail on the instrument panel was added with a decal. It was difficult to position at this stage. I should have added it before attaching the cockpit to the fuselage. 2.5 grams of weight needed to be added to the nose to prevent the plane from tail-sitting. I glued in the squash drawing pins to add that weight. Pegs were used to clamp the fuselage halves while the glue dried. The rudder is a separate piece so that its angle can be customized. I glued in some bolts to add even more weight to the front of the plane. The lower wing part fitted perfectly to the fuselage. The upper wing parts also fitted very well. The air intakes were attached, but they didn't fit so well and required some sanding later on. There was a small join seam between the 2 fuselage halves which needed some sanding. I used a nail file and small circular motions to smooth it flat. I also sanded the edges of the wings and around the air intakes. I used a Tipp-Ex pen to fill in any small gaps between parts. This technique seemed to work pretty well. Once dry, I sanded the Tipp-Ex smooth with the nail file. Tamiya extra thin cement was used to join any small gaps where the Tipp-Ex couldn't be used. I rescored some of the panel lines that had been lost with my craft knife. The areas that had been filled and sanded received an initial coat of paint to check they were smooth. In retrospect, it would have been better to use a gray color as the white of the Tipp-Ex showed through the red. The first coat of Humbrol 19 Bright Gloss Red was thinned to a ratio of roughly 8 parts paint to 1 part water. I brushed this coat on from nose to tail. The red was quite a weak color, so it would have been beneficial to apply primer beforehand. The second coat of Humbrol 19 was thinned to the same ratio, but this time I brushed from left to right to minimize visible brush strokes. For more information, check out Owen's video on how to brush paint scale models. There's a link in the cards and in the description below. The fifth coat of Humbrol 19, still thinned roughly 8 parts paint to 1 part thinner, was applied in a diagonal direction. Because of the gloss finish to the color, the brush strokes were unfortunately quite visible at this stage. I think it would have been better to paint the model with matte red and then finish the model with a gloss coat. I painted the wheel wells with Humbrol 64 light gray, and the exhaust was painted with Humbrol 11 silver, thinned to a ratio of 7 parts paint to 1 part water. Small details were painted Humbrol 33 black. The anti-glare panel was painted with 2 coats of Humbrol 33 black, thinned to a ratio of 7 parts paint to 1 part water. As the plane already had a gloss finish, I could apply the decals directly onto the paint. I soaked the decals in Humbrol decal fix for about a minute and then slid them into position on the model. I found that Humbrol decal fix, although effective, is more difficult to use than microset decal solution. For more information, check out Owen's video on how to apply decals. There's a link in the cards and in the description. I struggled to apply one of the small number markings and had to get Owen to help out. Once the decals had been left overnight to dry, the residue from the Humbrol decal fix was wiped off with a damp cotton bud. I mixed a wash using brown, black, white, and red watercolor paint and applied it to the panel lines to accentuate them. Once this had dried, I wiped away the excess with a damp cotton bud. After a coat of gloss varnish to seal the decals and the wash, I attached the landing gear. When the landing gear had set, I touched up some of the paintwork. The canopy was painted with 3 coats of Humbrol 19 bright gloss red. Once it had dried, I neatened the paintwork by gently scratching off the mess with a sharpened paintbrush handle, but you could use a sharpened matchstick or a cocktail stick. The clear parts were attached with PVA glue, as attaching them with normal polycement glue would make the clear plastic turn foggy. I decided to build it with the canopy open, but there is the option of building it with the canopy sealed. Once these parts were attached, the model was complete.
Overall, I'd say this kit is good. The parts fit well together, however, there was a small amount of sanding and filling needed. The molded detail was really nice on this kit, and so was the recessed panel lines. The decals were also good quality, however, there was no stencil data. I would recommend this kit for beginners. As someone who'd never built a kit before, I thought it was a really good place to start. However, if you are a more advanced model maker, I would recommend the non-starter set version. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.